Hello everyone and welcome to this very small tutorial that I've been wanting to make for a while. This is how to install Debian or Debian. I've never known which is the right word to call it, but I call it Debian. Debian 9, or in this case 9.5. What we're going to do right now is we're going to install or create rather a virtual machine through VirtualBox, and afterwards we're gonna set up the operating system. It's gonna be very simple, very straightforward, and there might be a little bit of a cut here and there, but it's very straightforward. Now I know it's a little bit complicated, or it looks a little bit complicated when you try and do it the first time, because I had this issue when I did it almost 8 years ago with Debian 5. It was very confusing at the time because I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. But we're gonna do it very simple. We're gonna install LXDE and we're gonna work from there. Okay, I can install XFCE, I can install KDE, GNOME 3, Unity. I can install a bunch of interfaces, but we're going to do LXDE because we're limited in the available resources. Actually, this machine that I'm recording from uses LXDE. I've always used it. It was first XFCE, then LXDE. I liked LXDE better. That's personal preference. So let's get on doing this. Let's create a new machine. I'll call it Debian 9. It's going to be Debian 32 because this machine uses the 32-bit version. Why? Because it doesn't have enough RAM. Period. That's the only reason why I'm doing it. But you can, if you have a machine that has more or can use more than 4 gigabytes, or 3 in my case. No, mine uses 4. If you have something that uses 4 or more, you might want to try and do 64-bit. That's very important when you're trying to go about that. Also, as far as I know, this doesn't affect the setup. It just indicates if it's 64 or 32. That's it. We're not going to assign that much RAM. We're going to do 512. I believe the minimum that you can use for a Debian install is 64 megabytes. I've installed this in a Pentium 3 machine that has that much RAM, or that it can only go that high. I've done it, so I know it works. 512, it's a decent amount. Recommended? Yeah. 1 gig should be more than enough for a test machine. If you're gonna use your machine, I mean, this is not gonna be a thing. It's gonna go straight and use every resource available on the machine. We're gonna create a new virtual disk. VDI. I mean, I've always used this by default. I know that there's other reasons to use others. I'm gonna go deep into this. Dynamically allocated. I always use this option because if you use fixed size, it's always a size. It's always 50 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes, or whatever it is that you assign. This could potentially be an issue because you could be using space that you could be using for other things. Dynamically allocated is just, it grows and it shrinks if you put anything in it or if you remove things from it. It's organic basically, and it releases space in case you need to use it for other things. This could be a problem if you have way too many machines. Okay, we're gonna use 20. 20 is more than enough for this example. You can use more, you can use less, depends on what you need. Example given, Raspberry Pi. Raspbian uses a minimum of, it requires a card that's at least 2 gigabytes. And I've installed it in it, and it leaves you with around 300 megabytes, maybe 400. I'm not sure. It's not much, but It can be as low as that. And a very core installation of Debian, it's super small. The footprint is very, very, very small. You could do. I may be assuming wrongly, but you could do 1 gigabyte in case you're super limited in space, or if you just want to save it on a flash drive or in any other type of storage. Okay, so before we continue, let's change some other settings because those weren't changed initially. Okay, drag and drop. No, but we want to do share clipboard bidirectional. We're gonna see more about this later on, in probably in another chapter, but this will become important later on. This encryption, you can enable this if you want. I usually don't do it, but in a production environment, this may be very important. System, okay. We don't need floppy to be bootable, but you could potentially use a floppy image if you want. One processor, we're going to use 100% of the processor. I could do 2, we're not going to do 2, because that could hang the system. I'm not going to say it's going to do it, but I don't want to fiddle with it. So it's 1 CPU, 100% of it. So in the features, we're going to leave it as it is. Acceleration, default, as it is. Display. 16 megabytes should be okay for what we're going to do. So, which is basically we're not going to do a graphic install, we're going to do the original installer. I've actually never used the graphic installer, to be really honest, but it may be the same thing. Monitor 1, skill, everything the same. Important part here, network adapter. So, by default, this is what you get. This is a driver, and it's in a net. I'm going to use bridged adapter. I'm going to use my Ethernet card. With Debian 9, the naming convention changed because of, I think, system D. I'm not sure. I mean, I've read about it and I keep forgetting about it. There's a reason behind it, and it's a bit confusing if you don't know what's going on, because before it was ETH0, Ethernet 0, and that makes sense. I'm not exactly 100% sure why it's called ENP0S25. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, WLP, I would assume that it's Ethernet and wireless. I'm not sure about the rest though. But this is how it should be. We're going to bridge it, so we're going to get an IP from the modem. Why? Because if I need to connect remotely through a SSH session, which you could do if you want, you could just put it and continue at one point doing an SSH installation remotely. This is a possibility. I've done it. I would assume that there's some cases in which you would need to do it. I can't give you an example right now in which situation you would need this, to be honest. And okay, now for storage, I was forgetting this. So we have an optical drive, but we need to load a disk. Downloads, and okay, I have the DVD for Debian 9.5.0, the 386 version, which is the 32-bit version. You could also see i486, 586, 686. If I'm assuming correctly, those are all 32-bit, because the other one is either I think it's IA64 or AMD64 for the other instances. Okay, so we have this, and we have the optical to be the first bootable item on the list. If everything's correct, we'll start. We'll start. Remove the messages, and okay, we're gonna capture the mouse. Which, by the way, to release the mouse from a VirtualBox, you use the right control key on the keyboard. Click it, it disappears. I get the message again. I'm gonna remove it because it's gonna be coming up all the time. So, host key by default is right control. Capture. And I'll do this real quick. You might notice here that it says here on the bottom right side, it says right control. It turns green when you're using it, so you know that you're actually on this virtual machine. Okay, so let's do install. It should be pretty fast, if I'm not mistaken, because we have everything on the DVD. Why am I using DVD? Because I could be using the net version or the small USB, the small ISO, whichever. They all do the same. They all work the same. The thing is that some of them have more packages than the other. That's the main difference. And sometimes when you're doing an installation, if you don't have an internet connection, you're gonna either need to put another CD or a USB or something that contains that package. I used to have that problem when I was installing either Debian 5 or 6 on an IBM T61, which is another machine that I used for years. And it was always an issue with the wireless and with the Ethernet. The driver wouldn't be there. So once I was finished installing, I either had to download it or had to download it before. I think that the way that I fixed it in the long run, it was fixed in Debian 7 or 8. The driver was there by default, but before that, I think I had to download a DVD for it to be there, or I had to download it elsewhere. And lesson learned. Just, if you can, use a DVD. There are several DVDs that you can get. DVD 1, 2, 3, 4. You will need to either burn it to a DVD. Same for the CDs. There's tons of CDs. Or you will need to get several USBs and just pass the ISO image there. Not just the ISO. You will need to burn it. You will need to use in Windows. You will need to use Rufus, which is my personal recommendation. On Linux, you can use DD. But I've done it in the past, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I know that I'm doing it wrong. That's all that I know. I'm just doing it wrong. Okay, so let's continue. By default, the language that's selected is English. I'm going to use English. I'm located in the United States. Again, when you select this, it affects your time zone and also gives you a list of the repositories that are closer to you, if I'm not mistaken also. Maybe wrong though. If I'm wrong, just correct me. I maybe assume I'm wrong. Okay, so in the United States. Yes, American English. Okay. Just gonna load everything up. Again, it shouldn't take this long. Or rather, it's not gonna take long. Your machine might be faster. If you have an SSD, it's gonna be way faster. If you're using USB 2.0 or 3.0 with a USB drive that is capable of that, if you're using an external hard drive, if you're doing this installation through PXE, I don't know if anyone does PXE installations anymore. They may do. They may do. It can save you a lot of time. But whichever way you use it, if you have solid state drives, it's going to be way faster. Also, it's limited to the read-write of the hard drive, in my case. Okay, it's going to attempt to detect the IP now, after it's finished loading. It's going to try and get an IP address, an IPv4, and an IPv6. I don't have IPv6. Well, man, here's the funny story. It seems that the modem does give me an IPv6 now, or an IP6, whichever you want to call it. I don't even know why. No, I don't even know why would I use that. but it apparently does give you that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, because it used to fail before. It used to tell me, "Oh, I couldn't get an IPv6." Okay, that's fine, man. Just give me an IPv4. Cool with that. The name of our system. It's gonna be Debian 9 test. You can name it whatever you want, and you will be able to find this machine in your network. If you have a domain name, you put it. I don't have one. I'm just gonna jump that. Okay, so it's gonna ask us for our root password. It has to be safe. Well, I mean, at least for the root, it should be very safe. To be honest, it's very important for you to have a very strong password. I'm just gonna use a generic password. I'm gonna use my name for the first username. This username is gonna be your username. Don't use root as a username that you will be using constantly. If you need to use root for whatever reason, just escalate through su, super user, or use sudo. But don't use root as the main username. It should only be used for emergencies. Or at least, or not emergency, for something that may require you to use root. There are some applications, there are some things that may require you to use root. Don't, as I mentioned, don't use it if you don't need to. That's very important. I work in information security, and this is a constant issue. You see root communication flying all over the place. This is completely wrong, because the moment someone manages to get into the system, someone manages to push through with the password, someone catches a clear text password flying somewhere, this is the dead end. You're dead. Dead. Hackers win. Period. And from there on, it doesn't get any better. Believe me, it just doesn't. So, always be careful when using root, and make sure that you have a strong password. Also, make sure that you don't store that password physically anywhere where someone can easily get to it. If you're having a hard time remembering passwords, use an application. LastPass, I think LastKey. I'm not sure if LastKey is an application, but LastPass or Dashlane will be two of the apps that I would recommend. Personally, use Dashlane. I've never had a problem with it. Can get funky a little bit of the times when there's a lot going on, but it works fine with me. And with Windows, it has an integration with Windows Hello. So, LastPass, Dashlane. Remember your passwords. Again, don't have them anywhere where someone could pick it up. Please. My username is going to be Vicente, which is my first name, and that's okay. But I'm going to use let's say a company convention. So it's Bimenos. First letter of my first name and my last name. But I have first name, middle name, and two last names, because that's the convention that's used in Spanish-speaking countries. That's how it is. So it's always Bimenos in my case. Again, first name, last name, or my first last name. Again, I'm going to use a generic password. Okay, it's going to synchronize now. It's going to synchronize the machine so we can get the right time. This is also important, and I cannot stress how many times I've seen machines given wrong time. This can be very painful, because you could be trying to guess when someone logged in, and you could be 3 days in the future or 3 days in the past, and that doesn't make sense, because you don't know if the machine is actually 3 days in the future or if it's just going on and out. So that's the reason why it's important to have your machine synchronized. We're going to do Pacific because I'm on the West Coast. But again, depending on your geographical zone, it's going to give you different time zones. So you choose the right one for you. Okay. We're going to get the partitioner now. Before I used to have a lot of issues with this. Now I just use the entire disk. I could encrypt it. Not gonna do it. Again, we're gonna keep it simple. But personal recommendation: encrypt your disk. In case anything happens or it gets to the worst, someone's gonna have a really hard time trying to figure out how to crack whatever's inside the disk. Period. Even if they if they make an image of the disk, it's gonna be a hell of a time for them to figure it out. So, personal recommendation. Okay. You may notice this SCSI. You might be wondering what that is. That's SCSI or SCSI. This used to be a thing before SATA. It was either IDE or SCSI. SCSI was for servers. SATA is an evolution of that. And I do have a couple servers here at home that use SCSI that are a complete pain to figure out sometimes. So if you ever wonder why that comes up, that's the reason. SDA, that means that it's the first disk that I can see. So whenever you want to do something, you may see partitions like SDA 1, SDA 2, etc. Those all belong to the same disk. We might see that in a bit. And it already says, it's already recognizing that this is a VirtualBox hard disk. So it knows that it's a virtual machine. We're going to do all files in one partition. You could do separate whole partition, you can do separate everything. I think this is the default, the last option for Fedora and Red Hat, because I've seen it, and I understand why you would do it, but I would say that you will need a not sure if I'm thinking this correctly, but you might need a considerably big hard drive for this. And I mean, for a production environment at least. Again, that's just me thinking on how that will work. Okay, so all files in one partition. Recommended for new users. I'm not a new user, I've been using this for a while, but I still do this all the time. Don't want to complicate my life. Okay, so we get a final confirmation. You can configure other things here. Again, encrypted volumes. You can also configure RAID if you want to do RAID through Linux. But I would recommend using hardware RAID if you have it. If you're wondering what that is, in very basic terms, you put a lot of hard drives together and they work together. So if you have two hard drives that are 1 terabyte, you could do RAID 1 or RAID 0. RAID 0 combines them together, you have 2 terabytes. RAID 1 puts them together, it's still 1 terabyte, but one is a mirror of the other. So if one fails, the other one picks up. So you don't lose your information. It's a safety measure. It's a fail-safe measure. It doesn't mean that that's how you should have your backups. Personal opinion: have your backups on CDs, on DVDs, on USBs, tapes. Personal preference is tape, but that's slow. But keep a backup. Also, if you want to use Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, SpiderOak is very good. If we're talking about security, SpiderOak is very good, very hard too, because if something happens, if you miss a password, if you miss a password, or if you do something else, I can't recall what it is. Basically, whatever's encrypted there, it's gone forever. You can't access it anymore, and SpiderOak can't access it because they don't have the encryption key, so it's lost forever. Whichever you like, use it, but do it. Do not hesitate on do a backup. Do not hesitate on have something stored, because if anything happens, and this is a personal story, working at a company, junior programmer, was doing a big thing, very big program. I completely messed it up, changed my computer to a new one, forgot to do a proper backup because I had to reformat my computer. I did not do a backup. I basically lost 6 months of work, and we needed to deliver the software super fast at that point, and because we were behind on schedule, we couldn't do it, and that's my story. mean, at least they let me quit. I went out without issues, but I mean, come on. That's a very hard lesson that you need to learn. And I have other stories, but we're not gonna get into that. So let's go back into the subject. Finish partitioning and write changes to disk. Because that's how we want it. Yes, we do want to do this. We're gonna do changes on SDA. We're gonna do partitions. One is ext4, which is the main one. Swap. Swap is when you run out of RAM, or when you have in memory, you have things that you're not using a lot, they get sent to swap. It's slower, obviously, but it saves RAM for quicker access. With SSDs, it still works the same, but you don't notice slowness anymore. It's very strange as to how it was 10 years ago. It's very alien to me sometimes, but that's how it used to work back then, and we still do it for many reasons. Okay. So we're gonna get now all the packages from the DVD. And again, this is the advantage that we have by using the DVD. We have everything there, so we don't need to download anything. It's in theory faster than it would be if I had to download everything. If I was using the netboot version, it only has the base system, and it has a very bare bones system. The rest it has to download, and that takes a while, depending on your connection. In my case, it can take a couple minutes, but if you're limited, or even if you have a dial-up, because I know people still use dial-up. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing on anyone. Dial-up is dial-up. It's a stable service, believe it or not. Even if it's 56 kbps. There's no 64 in the United States, so it's 56 at 7 kilobytes per second. That's how it used to fly 20 years ago. Or if you use your cell phone to connect, or a G3, G4 device, G3, G4, 3G or 4G device that allows you to connect. Oh, sorry about that. You may be limited on the amount of data that you can use, so it's always better to use a landline for this. Wireless is also okay. You could do a wireless installation. I've also done it, but I had an issue once with it, in which I was cutting in and out when I was doing the installation. So it's not because it's not because the connection of the internet was low. It's because the machine was too far away, and getting a cable run, it was gonna be a super long cable when it was easier with wireless. But again, wireless was just cutting in and out because it was from one side of the house to the other. And while I could see it and potentially connect to it, because it was connected, it wasn't working as intended. So yeah, that's how it is. Okay, I just finished picking up the packages. Gotta configure them, get them in, and we should be moving in to what is it that we want to install on the machine. By this I mean, do you want to have a DHCP server, a DNS server, a print server, a file server, what graphic interface you want to use, web server, etc. Now, back in Debian 5 and 6, I remember there was this huge list that I will give you about what you can install. Even there was even a separate selection for laptop packages. They don't do that anymore. And I'm assuming that it's detecting everything, so it knows what it will install or what not it will install on the machine. I don't know. But do you mean you have more of a core selection of things? And I'm assuming that the desktop environment already installs whatever you need for laptop or desktop. So, unless you're super limited on what you can install on the machine, because you have a very small amount of space, you can just go straight forward and install um, whichever graphic interface you want directly from the menu that we're about to see. Almost there. Also very important, the amount of RAM and the amount of processors that you have available will make this obviously faster. So I'm only using one processor and this is going very fast. But in other instances, if you have, and I've seen it, if you have 16 cores with 16 gigabytes of RAM or 32 gigabytes of RAM, it's gonna finish pretty fast. Not gonna take more than 5 or 10 minutes. And this is personal experience from just a couple days ago. Alright, if we had another CD or DVD, we could scan it right now, so we can add it, and Debian will pick up packages. It will tell us, oh, you know what, I'm gonna need this packages, so you're gonna need to pop in DVD2, DVD3, whatever. No, we're not gonna add anything else. We don't need to. I'm gonna be honest, we're not gonna need that. I really doubt it. Do we want to use a network mirror? Yes, we do. In our case, we do. You may not want to use one. There may be reasons why you don't want to do that. So you just choose no, and it will just install directly from the CD, DVD, or whichever thing is that you have in your machine, or attached to the virtual machine. It will not give you additional options such as packages or whatever, because they're not there. I cannot download them, so that's how it's going to work. So yes, when I use one, when I use one in the United States, I always use the one for Debian. I can use any other one. There's a bunch of them, and it goes on and on and on. Wow, I didn't know that Wikimedia had one. That's interesting. So that's very interesting. I honestly didn't know that Wikimedia had one. It's good to know. But we're gonna use the one for Debian. I don't have a proxy. I don't use one at home. If you do have one, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need to just put the whole thing in. Now it's gonna scan the mirror. If you notice on the bottom side of the screen, you're gonna see that there are two machines, and there's this little green and red dot that's going like crazy. That means that there's traffic. So we can assume by this, and we have seen it throughout the video, that we do have a connection to the internet. If for whatever reason it's not working, then there may be a problem with the driver. You can change it on the virtual machine. You can change it to another driver if that is not working for you, or the driver may be missing from the installation media that you're using. It's a possibility. If that is the case, you're gonna get a warning. Like as soon as you do, it's gonna say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not able to get a connection to the internet because I'm not able to find a device that allows me to connect. Do you want to check the drivers? Do you have additional media for the drivers, etc.?" You can do it from there. Also, and this is another very important cool stuff. If, let's say for example, that the Debian repository has 9.6 already, and I'm using 9.5. If that is the case, and there are updated packages that are not on the DVD or CD or whichever media I'm using, it's gonna take them straight from the repository. It's not gonna take them from the DVDs or the CDs or whatever. Why? Because it's newer. Simple. You could prevent this potentially by, again, eliminating the network mirrors. But that's only if you want to, or if you're not able to pull information from the internet for whatever reason. Otherwise, it's always going to pick up the latest available packages on the repository, in this case for Debian 9. Always. No exception. And I've seen it. Cases in which I just downloaded CD or DVD, I will just put it in, and it will still download packages because there's new ones. This also happens a lot with Ubuntu. Why? Because Ubuntu is always being updated. It's always updated constantly. Debian takes around 2 years for a major release to happen, and there are packages that are released on a daily or weekly basis. That depends, for stability purposes. But otherwise, don't be surprised if you're not seeing that many packages available as you would see on Ubuntu or other systems that are continuously being kept up to date. Okay. I think that we're about, yeah. Okay. We're gonna get something that's called a popularity contest. I don't use it. And I always go for no. And the popularity contest is to know what packages are installed the most. So I would assume that this is how they got the menu for the core packages that you get on the next screen. Just this one. I would assume that that's how they got it. So, can I do? If you're wondering how I'm doing this, it's with the key arrows up and down, and with space. Warning: if you have this selected and you don't have any environments, you're not gonna get. I'm not sure if you're gonna get one installed or not. I'm gonna say no. So I'm gonna do LXDE. How do I enable this? With space. You remove it with space. You put it back again with space. We don't want a print server. We do want the standard system utilities. We want the SSH server. We want LXDE with the Debian desktop environment. And off we go. Now this is probably the longest part. But as you can see, it's getting everything from the image that we put in. It's going super fast because it's going on the same hard drive. It's really not gonna take too much time. If you're using a USB, it might be as fast as this. The only problem that I could see here is that it's gonna take a while to install the packages, which is one processor. Again, I've installed Debian on Pentium 3 machines. I think I actually once installed it on a Pentium machine, like an MMX. I'm not sure right now, but I probably did, and I had the minimum RAM. Sorry again. It's still downloading packages. Well, it's downloading packages now, I think. Yep. That sounds about right. As I mentioned, sometimes packages change. So, it's gonna take those, and once it takes those, it's gonna start the installation. And since that's gonna take a while, I'm just gonna stay silent for a bit, and I'm probably just gonna jump in to once this is done. Probably gonna take 10 minutes, maybe less. Okay, it's time to install Grub. Grub is the bootloader, so it will tell the machine when it passes post. It will start searching for whichever bootable media there's on the machine, or in this case, the virtual machine. Bootloader will let this know that there is this partition from which it can boot up. This is important because if you have Windows, you can do dual boot. So you can use Windows and Linux not at the same time, but on the same hard drive. Okay, so yes, we do want to do Grub on the master boot record. MBR, dev.sda. Once that is done, it will remove the bootable media that we used to install. If it's a physical computer and there's a CD or DVD, it will actually remove it It will actually open up the tray and spit it out because you don't need it anymore at this point. Yes, continue. And if you notice on the bottom, next to the first icon, there used to be an icon of a CD. It's not there anymore, so the media is not loaded anymore. It's removed it. Okay. Finishing. And we're done. That's it. Okay, we're gonna boot up. Let's see how long it takes. Very important note, if we have done everything right, it will go through the whole thing. We'll boot up. Let me take a minute or two. There we go. Okay. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it will give us a prompt saying that welcome to Debian 9 test, and it will prompt for a username and password. If this happens, just give it a couple seconds or a minute for it to go from there and then boot up into the desktop. Let's take this out. No, we do not want to save the history in plain text because that is very dangerous. It even says here it might be a security risk. Never do it. No. And there we go. Now it looks like this. There's a very specific reason, and I'm gonna do it here just for the purpose of fixing this. Whoa. Oh, wait. Okay. Insert guest additions to the image. Open the file. We're gonna have this installation files. What this is for is to give us additional software so we can interact with VirtualBox. For example, we can move information from the clipboard on my machine into this machine and back from it. There's also other things like sharing folders, etc. But most importantly, what I need right now is for the clipboard to be shared. Now the problem is if I do this from here, I'm pretty sure it's not going to work. Oh well, yeah, it's going to try and open LibreOffice because reasons. Yes, no, that's not what we need. So we're going to have to go on the shell for this purpose. I'm not sure it's going to give us. I'm not sure it's going to let us do it with our current user because we don't have enough permissions for that. So let's close this out. Lesson learned. It doesn't work like Windows, and I keep forgetting about this. That you can't sometimes just double click on binaries for them to open up. We're gonna open up a root terminal because we're gonna need root access. I'm trying for the password. The password is the one that is for root. Now your username is for root. And I'm going to use it only for this session. I'm not going to save it on the keyring. Nope. Okay. So, if you're wondering where this is, because you're going to say, but how do I get there? So, very basic commands. cd, change the directory, media, cd-rom0, which is this right here. Okay. We're going to go here, ls, list, will give us the files. Same thing. This is this. It's just text. The interface is just built on top of this. What we're seeing here. Let's see. Linux. No, it's not gonna let us run it. Let's see for another street. Nope. Okay. So this is to execute something, or at least a binary. Or a script. In our case, it's not working because there's not enough permissions, and this is either way. It's not going to work because many other reasons. Okay, so let's do cd. I can recall what is tilde. Okay, vector bbox. Vector is make directory. We're gonna call it bbox. Very important on Debian and Linux and Unix, or any Linux system. Capitalization is very important. I'm gonna prove it right now. These are all different folders. They're not the same thing. It's the same word, and we know it. It's not that the machine doesn't know it. It's simply that it's different capitalization, so it can be used differently. That's it. Okay, so we remove rm space dash b for verbose, so I can see what it did. Uppercase R is recursive, so it removes directories. And the star is the wildcard, it erases everything. Or in this case, it's erasing everything. Wildcard is always all. Let's do a folder again. And let's copy everything from that folder here. So media. So, oh, it's lowercase. See, that's important because otherwise it doesn't recognize it. If I do tab, it will autofill, but it's not doing anything here. If I do it like this, CD-ROM 0, and you may be wondering why I didn't do this. Because CD-ROM 0 is not just CD-ROM. Okay, so we're gonna copy everything here, and also B for verbose to know everything, to see it on screen, what it's doing. R, recursive, copy the folders. And we're going to copy it here, so it's period slash bbox. So what we're doing with the period and the slash is that we start here. Here being where the tilde is, and you're wondering where did the tilde take us? The tilde will take you to your home directory. In the case of root, that is slash root. It's on the root of the hard drive, or the partition in this case. For users, it's home, then the username, people knows, and it can take me there, or it may be somewhere else. It might be in another partition. And why is that important? Because if it's in a different partition, you may have super user access, but you may not be able to access other partitions, so you cannot see folders and applications and binaries and files that belong to the system itself. You may only be able to see other users' folders or files. That's it. Or maybe not even that. Maybe you're not able to go that far into the system. That depends on how you are set up, or your username is set up. So we're going to copy everything to bbox. Copy. If you're wondering where the bbox guest edition is, that should come with the Oracle VirtualBox. In Windows, I think it has to download it. With Linux, or at least with Debian, it comes with it, or in this case it came with it. I recall previously it didn't. I'm not sure if that changed also. So let's go to bbox. Oh, fat fingers. And let's change the mode of the file. We're going to do 755. 755 will allow root to execute it. I don't want to get too far into this, but and also we're going to delete what's on this folder, because we don't need it after we install it. So bbox Linux additions run, okay, from 555 to 755. So only the root user, no wait, everyone should be able to execute it. Not sure why it's not working. I should, but okay. So bbox Linux editions. Maybe wrong though. I may be wrong, but I've always done it this way. And again, I delete it afterwards. I don't leave it here. So bbox Linux edition run. Okay, run it. So, alright. Okay, forgot something very important before we proceed. Bad on me. We're going to install packages, and to do this, we do it through the apt command or apt-get. Apt is a more general command. Apt-get, it's very specific on installing. There's a whole reason behind this, and I'm not going to get deep into it either because we're going simple. We can install, I believe it's build essential. We're going to see this in a second. And it might prompt us for a DVD. Yes, we need to install all of this because of reasons. Okay, yes, so we go here. For some mount, yes. We're gonna unmount the other one that we had, the guest additions. We don't need it anymore because we copied the files. Enter. And that's super fast because you have it here locally instead of having to download everything. Again, that's cooler, faster, smoother, allows you to work better. And in theory, we should be getting this really fast. It shouldn't take it this long to get everything installed. If everything is correct, I think we're also missing the headers. But we'll see if this is right or not. Okay. And what we just installed, Build Essentials, is a set of packages that are used in Debian to build other packages or other software, etc. Most machines will not need this. It's more for development, to be honest. But from time to time, you may need to use GCC make. You may even need to use, well, no, Perl is not part of that, or I'm not sure if it is or not. Python is already installed here. But the reason why you may need them again is because you may need to compile something. And that's one of the big things that some systems have, that they compile their own files and it runs smoother on their machines. Just like FreeBSD or NetBSD or any of those systems, you always have to pull the source and compile it from there. It's easier now than it was, again, 10 years ago, or 20, for that matter. So, now that we have that installed, we do it again. In theory, we should be good to go. Okay, apparently it did install something. Not sure why. Okay. Well, I probably tried and failed. Okay. Okay. So yes, we are missing the header files. Okay. Again, install. So we can just get it like this. Nope. Yeah, that should be it. That should be all we need. I think, okay, yeah, that actually had to be downloaded from Debian. From their repository, that is. And I think those are going to take a while to install. I'm not sure. But usually images and headers take a while to get through into the system. Okay. Well, that's actually faster than I would have expected it to go. Let's try this again. In theory, now we should be good to go. I think. Okay, so it has to remove it again, and it has to install it again. Not sure why this is the case though. Consider probably. Okay, please install. Probably, which are installed already. Found much in the current kernel for adding. Still an extra. Yada 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 yada. Okay. Ah, that's interesting. Oh, my bad. No sudo here yet. We'll get into that later on. Install, yeah. No install, it's not gonna work. Let's see it first. Whoa. I don't think we need to install all of those. So no, thank you. 7. Okay, 7. 686. This is another reason why you just don't try and just install the package like Linux Editor 4.9.0, because it will just give you a ton of packages, like way too many. Now that I see it, and this also, it's what I could consider dependency hell, because one thing needs the other, and so on, so forth, so on, so forth, and you could bloat the system with a ton of stuff that you may not need. But sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need to have it on the machine. Okay, it seems that it is going through now. Okay, that's great. And is it working? Is it not working? No, it is working. I can see it from my own machine that that processor and RAM consumption are just up the roof. The virtual machine is going crazy right now, doing a ton of stuff. So it is doing something. I'm just hoping that it wouldn't take this long. But I'm thinking about it. I mean, yeah, one processor gonna take a while. So sit back, enjoy, relax. On other systems, nah, it's not gonna take this long. If you have less resources though, it's gonna take forever. Personal recommendation that I could do is just install it on a system that's like it, with more resources, obviously, and just pass it over. You could potentially just use other systems and compile them, but that is all up to you. I mean, I remember this this figure that I would call him like that, or him, her. I don't know actually. I'm just gonna refer to this person as K Mandla, and this person was not very versed at the beginning from what they stated originally, and then they became very, very, very good at figuring out how to compile things and how to get systems that should or maybe should not be running something as a full blown, and I'm quotation marks, I'm using quotation marks here, full blown Linux version. This person used Crux, which is I'm not sure if it's obscure or not, but I have never heard of it before. And he compiled his own kernel and stuff, and he got things into the machine. Like I like to use the console a lot. I like it more than the interface. He had, or I mean, it still is up if you look it up. Game Andla. This person had a huge list of programs that would just run directly on the terminal, on the console, and it was impressive. You could see movies on the console. You could listen to music. He could write to his own WordPress from the console. But I mean, you could potentially do this by building an API or building something that interacts with an API. I mean, this guy was burst, and he knew what he was doing. So it was impressive to see a machine that was a Pentium 2 running a DVD and doing a lot of other stuff, and then he had a machine that was running torrents, sharing ISOs for Linux distributions, and just so much stuff that he was doing back then. They were doing back then. Sorry. Very interesting stuff. If you ever want to get more into the terminal, I think that will be a good starting point. And we're done. We are done. So we're gonna reboot. Reboot means restart. Here. And if everything worked correctly, you may notice something different. Oh no. Or we could also notice this. Never mind. Force and mount, yes. File. Reset. Yes, we're gonna reset. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna blow up. No, not yet at least. Yes, we're gonna run Debian. It's gonna boot up. And we should be seeing something very soon. Again, if it all worked correctly. If not, then I don't know. It's just crazy stuff. Okay. It's booting up. Ah, see, that's what I was talking about. You get this prompt real quick and then it just moves away. Okay. Let's remove this by clicking here. Aha. Okay, just a couple more seconds. Perfect. Now we have the full screen. Because what we just did with the VirtualBox add-ons is add drivers and other important things that would allow us to interact with the virtual machine. So I can do this, for example. Like that. Can copy something from my side into the machine directly. And from it, Inception. No. This is mine. And this is on the virtual machine. See? Easy. Easy peasy. Great stuff. So, we have our machine set up. We're going to do some interesting stuff with it. But we're going to stop here because this video has already gone for very long, and I think it was a little bit unnecessary to go into these steps, but I just wanted to do it because I wanted to finish the whole computer. For those that may be interested in doing a setup for a virtual machine on VirtualBox, this is how you would do it. In other systems it works differently, but you could try it on Red Hat, Fedora, Mint, Ubuntu, Arch, Savaillon, I think even Slack, but I don't know how you use Slackware, or Slacks. No, it's Slackware, because Slacks is the portable version, or the live loadable version, whatever. Anyway, so this is the end of this tutorial, of the first tutorial. I will be making more tutorials on more things that you can do with this virtual machine. I'll be working on some Python videos and maybe some Debian videos too. Taking advantage that we already have our virtual machine set up. If you have questions on something that you would like to see, do let me know in the comments. Do me a favor and share this. If you know someone that might need assistance with a Debian installation, share them this video or just ring me up, let me know, and I'll see how I can help you. Sometimes it's just, it could be a minor issue. It could be that the media you downloaded is damaged. It could be that the physical media is damaged and it's not working. It could be that it's not being read properly by whatever device you're using. And if it's not that, it could be something with the machine itself, RAM, processor, hard drive, etc. I've seen plenty of scenarios, some of them very weird. So, just, again, give me a hand, share it, like it, or don't like it, subscribe, and let me know what you think. If you want to see something else, just reach to me in the comments, send me a message. Same for social media. If you see me on Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, even if it's dead, I still use Google Plus from time to time. Just ring me up and I'll give you a hand. Okay, thank you. Have an excellent day.